In the heart of West Africa's Niger Delta, a vast maze of rivers, creeks, and mangrove forests flowing into the Gulf of Guinea, history once witnessed a transformation so extraordinary that it still challenges how Africa's past is understood. This region was not empty, it was not passive, and it was not waiting to be discovered. It was alive with trade, diplomacy, competition, and power. And in this world, a boy born without privilege would rise to command wealth, shape global commerce, and confront the British Empire at the height of its expansion. A slave would become a king, a merchant would build a state, and an African leader would refuse to surrender economic control. This is the story of King Jaja of Opobo, a story of displacement and determination, of intelligence sharpened by hardship, and of resistance that did not rely on armies alone, but on strategy, systems, and courage. Early life, a childhood cut short. Jaja was born around the year 1821 in Umuduruoha, a small Igbo community in what is now southeastern Nigeria. His birth name was Jubo Juboga. He entered the world as a free child, surrounded by family, language, and tradition. His early life would have been shaped by farming, communal labor, storytelling, and rituals that tied individuals to their ancestors and land. In Igbo society, identity was deeply connected to kinship and memory. But the early 19th century was a dangerous time. West Africa was unstable. Regional conflicts, economic pressures, and the aftershocks of the Atlantic slave trade made communities vulnerable. Children were often the easiest targets. Around the age of 12, Jubo's life was violently disrupted. He was captured and sold into slavery. The details are lost to time, whether he was taken during conflict, betrayal, or debt. But the outcome was clear. He was removed from his homeland and transported south to the Niger Delta, to the powerful coastal state of Bani. For most enslaved children, this was the end of hope. For Jubo, it was the beginning of transformation. Bani, a kingdom built on commerce. Bani was one of the most influential trading states in the Niger Delta. Its power came not from vast territory, but from its control of waterways and trade routes linking the African interior to the Atlantic world. For centuries, Bani had thrived on the slave trade, but by the early 1800s, that system was collapsing. European abolition had not ended exploitation. It had simply shifted it. A new commodity replaced human cargo: palm oil. Palm oil became essential to Europe's industrial economy. It lubricated factory machines, fueled lamps, and supported mass production. Demand skyrocketed. The Niger Delta became one of the most valuable commercial regions in the world. This new economy created opportunity, but also competition. Trade was controlled by merchant houses, powerful factions that managed supply, labor, and foreign relations. These houses functioned like corporations and governments combined. And this was the system Jaja was forced into. Learning power from the inside. As a slave in Bani, Jaja was not isolated from commerce. He was immersed in it. He observed how deals were made. He learned how prices were negotiated. He watched how European traders depended on African middlemen. Europeans could not easily move inland. Disease, climate, and geography limited them. They relied on African networks to bring goods to the coast. This gave African traders leverage. Jaja understood this better than most. He proved himself intelligent, disciplined, and reliable. In Bani society, merit could elevate even those born into bondage. Over time, Jaja earned trust, responsibility, and eventually freedom. But freedom was not his goal. Power was. Rise of a merchant prince. Once free, Jaja joined the Anna Pepple House, one of Bani's most influential trading houses. His rise was rapid. He negotiated contracts, managed supply chains, built alliances with inland producers. He understood that control of movement, not just ownership, created dominance. Under his leadership, the Anna Pepple House expanded dramatically. Jaja became indispensable. European traders recognized him as a key figure. African rivals watched him carefully. Wealth followed, and with wealth came political influence. But Bani's system depended on balance. As Jaja grew stronger, rival houses felt threatened. Internal tensions increased. Trade disputes turned personal. The unity of Bonny began to fracture. Jaja faced a critical decision: remain trapped in endless rivalry or leave and build something entirely his own. The founding of Opobo, power reimagined. In 1869, Jaja led his followers away from Bonny and founded a new settlement. He named it Opobo. This was not a retreat, it was a strategic masterstroke. Opobo was positioned along vital waterways that connected palm oil producers inland directly to the coast. Whoever controlled Opobo controlled access. From the beginning, Jaja designed Opobo as a regulated state. Trade was organized, laws were enforced, foreign merchants were allowed, but only under strict conditions. Jaja required all palm oil to pass through Opobo's markets. Taxes were collected, prices were set. This system enriched Opobo and stabilized the region. Within a decade, Opobo became the dominant trading power of the Niger Delta. Jaja sold massive quantities of palm oil directly to overseas markets, bypassing European middlemen entirely. He had done what Europe feared most. He had mastered capitalism and turned it against empire. Collision with the British Empire. By the late 19th century, European powers no longer wanted cooperation. They wanted control. Africa was being divided into colonies through diplomacy backed by force. Trade treaties became tools of domination. Britain declared Opobo part of its territory. Jaja rejected this claim. He argued that Opobo was independent, that trade agreements did not equal political surrender, that African rulers had the right to control their economies. British officials saw him not as a partner, but as an obstacle. He blocked free trade. He limited European profits. He set his own rules. In the language of empire, this made him dangerous. Betrayal without war. Britain did not attack Opobo with guns. It used deception. In 1887, Jaja was invited to negotiations under the promise of diplomacy. Trusting the process, he agreed. When he boarded the ship, he was arrested. No resistance, no warning. He was removed from his kingdom and taken away. This was not justice, it was removal. Exile and silence. Jaja was transported first to the Gold Coast, then to Britain. Later, he was exiled to the Caribbean. Even in exile, his presence unsettled colonial authorities. He inspired resistance simply by existing. But exile is a slow punishment. Isolation, displacement, loss of power. Years passed. Finally, he was granted permission to return home. He never arrived. In 1891, King Jaja of Opobo died before reaching his kingdom. The circumstances remain unclear. Aftermath and legacy. Without Jaja, Opobo lost its independence. British control tightened. The economic system he built was dismantled, but memory could not be erased. His people remembered him. Historians recorded his impact. A monument was later raised in his honor. King Jaja became a symbol, not of violence, but of intelligence, not of conquest, but of resistance through strategy. He proved that African leaders understood global systems, that they could compete and win on within them. Closing reflection. King Jaja of Opobo's life challenges old narratives. He was not weak. He was not naive. He was not defeated in battle. He was removed because he was effective. His story reminds us that history is not only shaped by wars, but by economics, control, and the fear of independence. From slavery to sovereignty, from commerce to confrontation, King Jaja's legacy endures, not because empire allowed it,
but because truth survived.